Hello, and welcome to the annual meeting of shareholders of SSR Mining Incorporated. Please note that today's meeting is being recorded. If you participate in today's meeting and disclose personal information, you will be deemed to consent to the recording, transfer, and use of same. If you disclose personal information of another person in today's meeting, you will be deemed to represent and warrant to Computershare and the corporation that you first obtained all required consents for the disclosure, recording, transfer, and use of such personal information from all appropriate persons any time by clicking on the Q&A tab. It is now my pleasure to turn today's meeting over to the Executive Chair, Mr. Rod Antal. The floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Rod Antal, the Executive Chairman of the Board of Directors of SSR Mining. I would like to welcome you to the company's 2026 annual meeting. The Board of Directors of the company has delegated to me the authority to lead the meeting of shareholders today. As the company's meeting is being held virtually, I would like to set out a few rules for the orderly conduct of the meeting. Questions can be submitted today by any registered shareholder or duly appointed proxy holder using the Q&A tab of the virtual meeting interface. Any questions regarding procedural matters or directly related to the motions before the meeting will be addressed after the presentation of all business items. All other questions will be addressed during the question and answer period at the conclusion of the formal part of the meeting. When asking a question, please indicate your name and which entity you represent, if any. For the purpose of the meeting, voting on all matters will be conducted by electronic ballot. Please note the polls are open for electronic voting now and will remain open until later in the meeting. Only registered shareholders, as of the record date, as recorded in our stock register at the close of business on March 9, 2026, and duly appointed proxy holders who have not voted in advance of the meeting may vote during the meeting. Importantly, if you are a registered shareholder or a duly appointed proxy holder and have already voted by submitting your proxy form or voting instructions form in advance of the meeting, it is not necessary for you to vote again today. With those guidelines in mind, we will now proceed to the formal portion of today's meeting. I now ask that the company's 2026 annual meeting come to order. For the purposes of this meeting, I appoint Eric Gunning, General Counsel and Corporate Secretary of the company, to act as Secretary. The company's registrar and transfer agent is Computershare Investor Services, Inc. For the purposes of this meeting, I appoint Computershare through its representatives to act as scrutineer of the meeting, to compute the votes of the polls taken at this meeting, and to report the results to me as Chairman. The purpose of today's meeting are set out in the company's proxy statement dated March 25, 2026. Unless there are any objections, I will forgo the reading of the notice of the meeting. The scrutineer has provided confirmation that the meeting materials were mailed to all holders of common shares on or about March 27, 2026, and that proper notice of the meeting has been given. Please note that copies of the meeting materials, including the proxy statement, are available on the company's website and the company's profile on EDGAR and on SEDAR+. I have before me a preliminary scrutineer's report indicating that there is a sufficient number of shareholders and proxy holders present to constitute a quorum. I therefore declare that a quorum of shareholders, as required under the company's articles, is present and that the meeting is regularly called and properly constituted for the transaction of the business. I will now deal with the business of the meeting. The company's articles provided that, as Executive Chairman, I may propose a motion and that no motions need to be seconded. In the interest of expediting the business of the meeting, I will move all motions to be proposed. As the first item of business on the agenda for today's meeting, I now present the company's audited financial statements for the financial year ending December 31, 2025, together with the auditor's report to the shareholders thereon. Copies of these documents have been mailed to shareholders who requested them and are available on the company's website and on the company's profile on EDGAR and on SEDAR+. It is not proposed that they be read at this meeting. Any questions relating to or discussions of the company's audited financial statement and auditor's report will be deferred until the question and answer period at the conclusion of the formal part of today's meeting. The next item of business is the election of directors. The 8 directors be elected by shareholders of the company shall hold office until the close of business of the first annual meeting of shareholders of the company following election or until their successors are elected or appointed. The following individuals have been nominated as directors for the ensuing year or until their successors are elected or appointed and are prepared to stand for election as directors, as set out in the company's proxy statement. The individuals standing for election as directors are myself, Rod Antle, Thomas R. Bates Jr., Brian R. Booth, Alan P. Cruzy, Daniel Malchek, Laura Mullen, Kay Priestley, and Karen Swager. I move to elect all the nominees as directors of the company. The next item of business is the shareholders' advisory, non-binding vote on executive compensation. The company endorses a pay-for-performance approach for executive compensation in order to reinforce the linkages between compensation and the company's strategic objectives and risk management processes. A detailed discussion of the company's executive compensation program is provided in the compensation discussion and analysis section of the company's proxy statement. The company has conducted a say-on-pay advisory vote since 2016. The purpose of the say-on-pay advisory vote is to give shareholders a formal opportunity to provide views on the disclosed objectives of the executive compensation plans. As this is an advisory vote, the results will not be binding upon the board. As in past years, the company will disclose the results of the shareholder advisory vote as part of its reporting on voting results for this meeting. I move to approve on a non-binding advisory basis the company's approach to executive compensation as set out in the company's proxy statement. The next item of business is the appointment of the company's independent registered public accounting firm. The company's current independent registered public accounting firm is PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP, also known as PwC. The Audit Committee has approved the reappointment of PwC for the ensuing year. I move to ratify the appointment of PwC as the independent registered public accounting firm for the company the fiscal year ending December 31, 2026 and until the next annual meeting. Unless there are any questions on any of the motions before the meeting, we'll now pause, finalize, and submit all electronic ballots. As mentioned, the polls are open for voting by electronic ballot. As a reminder, if you are a duly appointed proxy holder who has already voted in advance of the meeting, it is not necessary for you to vote again today. All registered shareholders and duly appointed proxy holders who have properly logged in with your control number or username and wish to vote, please register your votes at this time. Once the electronic balloting closes, your votes will automatically be submitted. The polls are now closed. I ask that the scrutineer compile the report regarding the results of voting on all business matters. Note the results will be published by the company on EDGAR, on SEDAR+, and by press release. Based on provisional results from the ballots and proxies deposited for the meeting, I declare that all resolutions have passed. I direct that results of the poll be included with the minutes of this meeting. Thank you. This completes the matters of business to be conducted as set out in the notice of meeting. I therefore move that the meeting be terminated. As there is no further business to come before the meeting, I declare the formal part of the meeting to be concluded. I will now open the meeting for any questions. As a reminder, you can submit a question today using the Q&A tab of the virtual meeting interface. We will now give attendees a moment to submit any questions. There being no further business or questions, we will now conclude the meeting. Thank you for your attendance today.
This concludes the meeting. You may now disconnect.